Dear 2023 Alaska Legislature, I am writing today, the 17th of April 2023, to request you expel, fine, censure, or sanction Rep. Jennie Armstrong due to the fact she fraudulently obtained her position by a lie. She is not qualified to serve in the legislature under statute due to her not being a resident of Alaska for 3 years prior. This was hashed out in a civil suit, which proved the data that her formal residency driver's license was not obtained and she was not physically in Alaska 3 years prior to her running. An American can only be a resident with a driver's license in one state at a time. This simply, by statute, disqualifies her from serving in the legislature. She was several months out of the 3-year window. The judge's ruling was flawed and not based on fact or law and should be appealed and was a split decision amidst the judges. We were not a party to the civil suit, but observed it as we follow state matters. Regardless, the legislature themselves has a responsibility to vet their members and uphold the statute. There is a clear line in the sand established by statute, and Jennie Armstrong was willfully disregarded the rule of law to run and present herself as eligible where she simply was and is not. This is, in layman's terms, lying to get a job, lying to get state money, lying to influence state politics, lying to defraud voters, lying to influence policy, lying to misrepresent herself as being qualified when she was not. It was her responsibility to clarify and confirm she was eligible to run prior to running, and she didn't do this basic step. It's irresponsible to allow her to continue to serve, especially in light of her bringing quote-unquote baggage like her bill HB 99 that doesn't reflect Alaskan values or needs. She seems to want to do this to be a media star and push a national or lower 48 agenda on a state that is and has been doing just fine without her for some time. Her husband can order a mail-order bride, but the Alaska Legislature cannot legally have an unqualified mail-order rep serving in session. She cannot lie to get a job, lie to get state taxpayer money in a salary. This is fraudulent and un-American and un-Alaskan in the clearest and most unequivocal way, and a violation of statute. If she was a teacher in an Alaskan school, she would need a teaching certificate, or it would be illegal for her to teach the students. This fraud by her is akin to teaching without one, or being a fishing guide without a six-pack license, or flying a plane without a pilot license. It's illegal. She's not qualified. It's dangerous to our democracy. The students or fishing party or flight passengers, aka the residents of Alaska, have a right legally to representatives that have met unequivocally the 3-year minimum of residency before serving. It is the law. There must be a penalty, a sanction, or an expulsion for her fraud. In her recent testimony for her bill, she was unprofessional, awkward, and unprepared and unable to answer simple, straightforward, respectful questions by other reps serving. See the link to an Alaska Watchman article. Her aide or others, all men, had to step in and speak on behalf of her. This is unacceptable. This is a bill she has allegedly authored. She herself needs to be able to speak with regard to the intent, the impact, and its meaning. She appears to be a puppet by others, pushing an agenda of others, not voters, not Alaskans. She also has been seen to be testifying and maligning, misrepresenting the motives and policy work of other members serving. There were videos posted online that show this. This is, again, unprofessional and unacceptable. I, like the judge who ruled on her civil case, wanted to cut her slack. I even posted a video suggesting she should be able to serve, as her constituents deserved representation, and give her a chance to run with the pack. Due to the lateness, aka not timeliness, of the civil complaint that brought up her not being a resident for 3 years prior to running. But I feel at this point it's been proven there's a reason the statute is written like it is, and her cutting corners to serve in government should be penalized, not rewarded. I would suggest a 30% dock on her legislative salary for the session if she wasn't an Alaskan for 3 years, or the legislative body removing her right to introduce bills for the session for the remainder of its duration. If the legislative body cannot take it upon themselves to, upon putting it to a vote, expel her formally from serving for the remainder of the session, which I would suggest would be the most reasonable course of action and the best choice. Getting above and beyond emotion and looking at this matter objectively through the lens of the statute, I believe it's clear she should be expelled. To send a clear and unequivocal message to her and other prospective lawmakers that to make law, to serve in the legislative body in Alaska, first and foremost, you must respect the laws already written, the statutes already established. Alaskan values do not include cutting corners or lying about your resume or qualifications just to get a job. If a bricklayer lies about the composition of his cement and uses a cheap knockoff product to increase his profit margin instead of quality, reputable material, the building he has a contract to build has a likelihood of becoming unsafe for the inhabitants. That's like this legislature allowing a lawmaker like Jennie Armstrong, who doesn't meet the statutory requirements to make law to serve. It creates an unsafe, unstable, and unfair future for Alaska. These actions by Armstrong should have consequences. She shouldn't be influencing public policy. She shouldn't be introducing a bill she is unable to answer simple questions on. She shouldn't be maligning inappropriately her fellow lawmakers. She shouldn't treat this like it's a media spectacle to get a rainbow sticker to appeal to a national agenda that's not aligned with a state built on self-reliance and independence. She hasn't been part of the economy for the 2-something years she was here either. She doesn't understand the economy or the state or the community. Her values and her outlook is reflective of her not being woven into the fabric of this place. She's been in a protected, isolated bubble glued to tech, not to people. During her brief time she's been with her husband. Matt claiming and telling her he thinks she should run doesn't make her qualified. They both should have looked at the statute and done their research with regard to the statute and how long she has been a resident of the state. Her husband and her do not appear to be stupid people. There is no legitimate, reasonable excuse. She cut a corner because the seat was available due to a vacancy or redistricting to get an unfair competitive advantage and thought that it would be okay to cheat, to lie, to round down instead of rounding up, to err on the risky side instead of the safe side. This is unacceptable and shows her lack of judgment and lack of self-awareness and irresponsibility and refusal to work within the established framework of Alaskan law and statute. She shouldn't cheat to get a paycheck. She shouldn't lie to get a job. We can't reward this process abuse and this disregard for letter of law. She shouldn't, just because she's a woman, be allowed to serve, to get a pass. She needs to be held to the same standards as any other person. It's clear she should not be serving by both statute that she violated to run in the first place, but also now by her actions in session. And thus we are burdened to request and demand that the 2023 Alaska Legislature convene and vote and take action to expel, to sanction, define, or publicly condemn her lack of eligibility ASAP for her ethics and performance violations before more damage is done to the legal framework and structure, as well as the moral fiber and compass of a state that has been built on truth and freedom and speaking for yourself and your literal community in plain terms, not on lies and misrepresentations by a carpetbagger mail-order bride who hasn't been in Alaska 3 years but chose to lie her way into office, can't answer questions about bills she herself has introduced, and maligns other dignitaries who are fairly, reasonably, and politely serving their constituents and have a much better understanding of law and state government and living in Alaska than her. The state of Alaska needs to be firm and clear with Jennie Armstrong. This is not a state that accepts mail-order reps. I would request thus that the Alaska Legislature expel Jennie Armstrong. She didn't and doesn't meet the statutory requirements to serve. It is illegal and she is a liar. We cannot condone and accept liars. The statute must be enforced. Thank you. April 17th, 2023. A concerned citizen.